Welcome to The Voice of Business with Nicholas Jones. I'm here today with Gretchen Fors with a company called Fors Health Coaching. It's her business. It's a franchise, and we're going to dig into how she is being successful during this pandemic, as well as address who she is and why she does what she does. So welcome to the show, Gretchen.
Welcome. Thanks for having me, Nick.
We also have her husband here with us. And say a little hi.
Hey, Nick. Grateful to be here.
And so we're going to dig into talking about what the business does. And so let's start really, though, about who you are, Gretchen, and kind of a brief little summary of what your business is, and we'll kind of start to dig into that. So what's your business?
Okay. My business is Fors Health Coaching, but I actually am an independent certified Optavia coach. And so it's kind of like a franchise, right? Like my background is I'm a family nurse practitioner. So, of course, I didn't.
So real quick, though, before we dig into that, what does your business do exactly?
Oh, so our goal is for one healthy habit at a time. So I help people who have goals for either maybe losing weight, for working on their stress reduction, for working on how to improve their sleep habits. Maybe they're working on some exercise goals, but really doing one healthy habit at a time. It's coaching, right? Coaching is a big buzzword these days, but really helping you set your pace, and I help you set the direction, and we work together to help you make your goals possible.
Okay. Well, so that's what your business does. Let's kind of figure out, before we get into the details of that, I want to understand the basis of who you are. Any entrepreneur, it's very, very important to understand who they are so that we can kind of map the decisions that they've made. Let's go back. So you actually have a number of degrees. Let's dig into that.
Yeah, and actually that's an interesting question, because I remember growing up thinking I didn't ever want to be the boss. So I sometimes laugh that I've turned into this entrepreneur, and I didn't know the gold in entrepreneurship. Like, I wish I had realized the beauty of entrepreneurship sooner in my career, because I felt like as a child I got told you have a path, and the path is to do these certain things. And so I picked a very predictable career, right? I went to nursing school. You don't ever really worry about coming out of nursing school whether you're going to find a job or not. There's usually a job for a nurse. So the first thing I did was go to nursing school. I actually have an associate's degree in nursing. After that first step, then I went and got a bachelor's degree in nursing. I worked labor and delivery. That was my favorite job. It's always fun to bring babies in the world. And then I actually got a master's degree in nursing. So I'm actually a family nurse practitioner.
And so you went the whole gamut.
The whole gamut.
And so when you got the family nurse practitioner degree, did you, and from BYU, right?
From BYU.
How long in a hospital did you work? How long did you work in a hospital?
Oh, for years while I was getting my master's degree. So I started, after my associate's degree, I started working as a nurse and going to school while I was getting my bachelor's degree and working med surg like most brand new nurses do on a medical floor. And then when I was getting my master's, I worked labor and delivery. And then my first job out of as a family nurse practitioner was with a obstetrician. And obviously I liked delivering babies, so I did women's health and really enjoyed that.
And so for how many years again?
Oh, you're asking me questions. I'm too old, Nick. I can't do the math in my head. I graduated from nursing school in 1998. I graduated with my bachelor's in 2001 and my master's in 2004. So what's that? 16 years I've been a family nurse practitioner.
Okay, and so in the work world, before you transitioned into what you do now.
I left what I do now I've been a health coach now for the last 5 years.
Okay,
so I spent about 11 years working as a family nurse practitioner.
And what was the kicker to get you to leave that world? I mean, you from what I know, you seem to have enjoyed it, but
I really enjoyed it. And here's the kicker: is that you introduced Eric, my husband. We have 5 children. And that was really the big catalyst. Is I went to nursing school, and every step I thought, this will make my life easier, right? You think, working a new nurse, you work nights, you work weekends. You think, okay, I'll get my bachelor's, maybe I'll get a little bit better day job, right? Then I started working days, and that was great. But then you still have a schedule and a shift. And I'm kind of a yellow personality. I like to do fun things. People would invite me to do something, but as a nurse, you can't take the day off. You can't decide this morning I'm going to take the day off. You have a shift you have to cover. And then we started having kids. And as I worked as a nurse practitioner, our oldest daughter was born with a cleft palate.
And so what is it? What is a cleft palate?
That means she had a hole in the back of her mouth. So whenever she would eat, like sometimes food would come out her nose, she had a hard time breathing, she couldn't go to daycare because she couldn't get sick because she couldn't breathe very well. And what happened is I was working as a nurse practitioner in a job I loved, seeing patients. I actually worked at that time in a big cancer hospital called City of Hope in Southern California. very fulfilling.
So real quick, you're talking really fast.
I know, I talk too fast.
We want to
sorry.
slow down just a little bit for our listeners so that they can keep up. Because you got it. You got a quick brain, but we all got to try to keep up. So you're doing great, though.
Yeah. So as a nurse practitioner, my husband, was a finance guy. He was working for a bank, and we had this child who had special needs. And the issue was I was working part-time, but as a nurse practitioner, we'd have her, she would get sick, and she couldn't go to her childcare. And I would say, hey, Eric, you have to stay home. I have 20 patients scheduled to see me. And he'd be like, I can't stay home. I have all these other things to do, right? And I think this is part of maybe why some people end up in entrepreneurship is because we're doing life together. And life, me working full-time as a family nurse practitioner, seeing 20 patients a day with kids we ended up having 5 kids. So she was our first, but with some of them also have special needs. It was a schedule we couldn't maintain. It was too stressful. And so I was looking for something that I could do more flexible, but also in a realm of something that I still loved.
That
right?
you'd enjoy, be passionate about.
That I enjoyed and was passionate about, right. And so that's kind of where the big shift came, is that I loved seeing patients and I loved helping them. But I couldn't do it in the framework of traditional family nurse practitioner. I couldn't do it in a 9-to-5. Actually, nurse practitioners don't work 9 to 5. That's the other thing.
Yeah, no, they're
It's call, it's weekends, it's nights. I mean, as soon as you think you're ready to walk out the door, the phone rings and there's an emergency and you can't pick the kid up from childcare. And with 2 busy careers, something was going to have to give. And this fell into my lap in a time that was just perfect. It's something that I can still serve and love people and help them get healthy, but in a way that I can manage my own time. And it's been just a really great blessing for our family.
Did you make the jump away from your traditional career to what you do now when you knew of it, or did you leave your traditional career and then start looking for an option?
So my path was a little different because we had moved at that point with Eric's career to Michigan, and his company actually moved us to Brazil for an expat assignment. So obviously I had to leave my job, the current job I had when we made that move. And to top it all off, when we moved to Brazil, I was pregnant with twins, which obviously wasn't planned.
That's okay. That seems like a lot of work coming up.
Right. So we moved to Brazil. I was pregnant with twins. We actually moved back early because I was pregnant with twins and everybody was worried about me having twins in Brazil. And
so you had them in Brazil?
No. We moved back so I wouldn't have them in Brazil. The company was worried about me having them in Brazil. Oh, come on.
You could have had like little Brazilians and American, like dual citizenship, right? Like, is that how it works there in Brazil?
I'm going to tell you a little secret. If I could have, I probably would have had them in Brazil because the healthcare system there is so amazing. It's very different than ours, and I understand that. But let's just say in Brazil, I had the cell phone number of my OBGYN. And when we moved back to Michigan,
you don't get that here.
I couldn't even barely get an appointment, even though I was 36 weeks pregnant with twins and I was begging to be seen. So part of me wonders, I'm sure it would have been fine. That's
twins, just like my wife is having another baby, and like we were terrified she's gonna have twins. Oh, you guys didn't know that,
I didn't
did
know
you?
that. Oh, yeah,
my wife's pregnant, so I was terrified that because like she was getting a little more like round, like a lot earlier than she did with Ella. And Ella's a nightmare. She's a beautiful nightmare, but she just thinks she wants to reorganize our entire house. And to have 2 of them at the same time trying to reorganize our house to the standard that they thought would be appropriate, like how did like, oh my gosh, like that must have been a freaking nightmare raising twins. Like they're glorious, I bet, but
no, actually, I think everybody should have twins. I think you'd be
really
surprised.
No.
I love my twins, and I think everybody should have twins.
Of course, you love them. It doesn't mean that age 0 to 3 isn't like a nightmare.
Yeah, but you only have to do that once, and you just watch them all, and it's 2 for the price of 1. I don't know. Everybody has their different.
I guess it makes sense.
It's just constant surveillance for the same amount of time, but you just have 2. So.
Well, the thing is that this is one of the reason I bring this up is because one of the amazing mindsets that I've started to notice with entrepreneurs is regardless of any aspect of your life, you're like, oh, well, I'll just get it done. And so I fixate on it because I'm like, well, I don't want to do that. But I raised my daughter, Jamie, for 8 years by myself while growing my business.
Right.
And so that I didn't even, at the time, I didn't even think about it. But looking back, I'm like, I don't know how I did that. Largely because Amelia stepped in, adopted Jamie, and has been,
right.
You know her well. Like she just does a fantastic job. And so we, I just that mindset that you have where you're like, well, I think everyone should have twins. It's amazing. That right there in and of itself is a very isolated mindset that an entrepreneur has, because you compartmentalize everything and say, I'm going to put this in a box over here and I'm going to focus on doing my thing. And especially within what you're doing with this Force Health Consulting, you have an ability to grow like it's a muscle, right? Your brain's a muscle. Yep. Mm-hmm. And so that mindset that you have that you're already starting to kind of allude to here just naturally without even really thinking about it is kind of the whole breadth of the show, is helping people learn from experienced entrepreneurs like yourself. We're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be back for you guys here. So remember, you're listening to The Voice of Business, and we'll see you in just a bit. Welcome back to The Voice of Business with Nicholas Jones here. And I'm also interviewing Gretchen Fors and her husband, Eric, here for the business that they have together called Force Health Consulting. If you want to download this show or listen to any of the other episodes that we've had on this talk show, you can head over to voiceofbusiness.com. I have all the links to social media. You can email me from there. You can reach out with any specific questions that you have. Additionally, you can also download this on any of the particular devices you want for podcast. All right, so we're going to jump back in. We were just talking about the entrepreneurial mindset that Gretchen has. And when we were off, she mentioned a nice little ring here that I kind of like, and I wanted to revisit that for us.
Okay, Nick. So one of the tenets I help with my clients and we talk about is that the obstacle is the way, right? Like
this is the way.
This is the way, right? Yeah. Like our brain always wants the easy part, and that's something that I can go into hours about, like the frontal, different parts of the brain. But our brain wants life to be easy. It's always looking for that easy button, right? But the reality of the situation is the obstacle is the way. And so as we just decide we're going to make a decision and become the dominant force in our life and take that first step, all of a sudden you realize that's actually the easy button, which seems so counterintuitive, but it's actually true.
Well,
once we decide,
in a way, it's counterintuitive.
We make this step and you make the decision and you move forward, all of a sudden it's freeing and you just feel that difference in that tension.
Well, smooth seas never made a good sailor in the first place,
True.
right? And so, in a way, it seems counterintuitive, but when you've passed through the fire a few times, you start to realize, actually, I'm really good at this now.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And everything becomes significantly easier. Yeah. I have 6 verticals in my business, and restaurant vertical, which we were talking about earlier when we were off. That's not doing too well right now in hashtag 2020. And I've got a retail vertical, and it's doing okay. Just because it's just game boards. It's board games, and people come in, puzzles, and you need something to do while you were cooped up. And so actually, it did okay. Who I am today, though, was largely made, I made reference to this earlier and I've made it in other shows. When I was raising Jamie by myself, I had to pass through some really rough seas, because I had to play the role of mom and dad and figure out what the crap I'm doing. And one of the more recent posts that I've made within my social media realm really kind of relates to Amelia and my wife, Amelia, and how I realized I thought I was like, I remember... this will tie into what you got for your consulting. I walked out a door one day with my daughter already. I took a picture and I felt like I was on top of the world. Like I was like, dude, look at I've got her dressed. I've got her lunch. I've got all this stuff. Everything's well. I'm going to go and do. I was going to go and get my MBA, go to MBA class. And I remember top of the world. About a month ago, I was looking through my memory jar that I have on my phone, and I saw that picture, and I thought, oh dear. She was in leopard, like a leopard skirt, purple shirt. I mean, she looked horrible. Her hair was all matted. And the reality that I had then versus what I can see now, I was scared. It was scary. But I have grown since then, and largely because of Amelia's help. And, all the selections and decisions I've made in my life were largely geared because of I had Jamie and I had to figure out what to do. And so it kind of resonates with me when you're talking about, you're like, well, I've got twins, I've got to leave. I got to figure out we've got a dual income home currently, but we got to figure something out. And necessity often is the birth for invention. Mm-hmm. And so if there wasn't that necessity, you would still be in your quote unquote hashtag 9-to-5 type of nurse practitioner job if there wasn't for that necessity. And so the real question is your life better off now than it was then?
1,000 times.
and 1,000 times. So in a nutshell, why is it better?
I think because, well, first of all, it's given us this life we didn't expect, right? So much freedom. When you work as a nurse practitioner, there's really no freedom. You're tied to your patients, to your, it used to be a pager, and I've worked long enough, it was a pager. Now it's your cell phone, your call schedule. And although I love that and I love serving my patients, and now I help clients, my clients, we always say we always joke that there's never an emergency in health coaching, right? There's a true emergency in healthcare. There's never an emergency in health coaching. And so it's given me the opportunity to serve and bless people's lives in a way that helps them, but also creates freedom in my life, that I'm not tied to those late night phone calls about that, that someone really needs something that needs to be solved right now.
Life or death.
Life or death. Right. Exactly.
Situation. There's no life or death there.
Exactly. No life or death here. This is all about me. And not only that, you don't get very many wins working in women's health or even in any type of healthcare. You see patients who are having a problem. They come to see you because they have a problem. They very rarely come back and say, you changed my life or made my life better. You don't get those wins very often. It would happen here and there. But in health coaching, I have a much different relationship with my clients than I did with my patients, where we are in constant contact and I get to hear their wins. The first thing I ask them every week is, what was your win for the week? And I get to hear how their lives are changing, how they're progressing. And it's much more fulfilling to watch somebody else's life actually change than it is to write them a prescription or give them some advice and send them out the door and hope and never know what happened, because they may or may not show up to you ever again. And so it's definitely a different shift in the dynamic of a relationship. And it's so much more fulfilling for me than just writing a prescription and sending them out the door.
And how different is this health coaching that you're talking about versus life coaching? Like, what's the difference?
It's I would say there's a lot of similarities, because it all really comes down to your brain. Like, we all think we have issues or deals with food, but really it's how our brain does it. So I would say.
So what is life coaching?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a life coach. I can't answer that, but I can tell you what I do. And I just know
let's
that
talk about what you do then.
I just know that our thing is all about one healthy habit at a time. So I help my clients set goals, and we work through those goals. And it's just like anything, like you said, when you do something that's hard and all of a sudden that hard becomes easy, you go, oh, that was easy. Like, I can think of a client who for years was kind of in this indecision. She had gained a lot of weight. She decided to try, to join with me and partner, and she did, and she started losing a lot of weight. Well, that gave her a lot of energy. And all of a sudden.
And so what did you do that helped her lose weight?
I have a very predictable transformation program. We start with nutrition. We start with, it's a little complicated to go in here for a long time over the radio, but I meet with every client. We do a health assessment. We figure out what their needs are, where their biggest concern and area is of risk. And then we just start with setting that one simple goal. We make a structural attention chart so that we know where we want, we act, I say, what do you want your future to be like? And they say what their goals are. And then we make goals and little goals and steps to get you to kind of make a step forward with that. So for her, this was like losing some weight. So when she lost some weight, she gained some energy. All of a sudden she was calling me, telling me, I've decided to sell the house, clean out the house. Well, she knew she was kind of a hoarder, but you can't, if you don't have any energy and you're sitting around the sofa all day thinking you should be doing something, you don't make very good progress. All of a sudden, once you feel better about yourself, you have more energy. All of a sudden, you can tackle that really hard goal, right? And so she was able to change her life. Her and her husband had decided that a long time ago they wanted to sell their home and live a totally different lifestyle. But when your house is full of stuff, you can't do that. But I see that once clients make one goal and they have the confidence that they achieved that goal, then they start to make another goal and they have this confidence to achieve that goal. And it's really amazing to see what that one healthy habit at a time can change for people's long-term life. And
I like to hear that. And so I imagine this is something that there's two different types of business models that are either thriving or suffering. So in hashtag 2020, my restaurant vertical, not doing very well. And that largely has to do, we do everything we can to make sure that we're providing for everything, but just like everybody else, when you look at where you were before, and for the restaurant vertical, and all of us have this trouble baselining. There's no baseline for a restaurant vertical. In January, I could have told you, Tuesday, I'm going to make this much money. The next Tuesday, I'm going to make that much money. The next I could tell you on any given day of the week what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. So logistically, I made it really good for wastage, like avoiding waste. Everything. And then it's literally all over the place. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. And so even when I have a profitable week, I have to pay off the waste I had from last week. And so, really trying to hone it in is really difficult. I imagine, though, your business could actually do significantly better because people are sitting at home. They're thinking, hey, I want to change this about me, or hey, I want to be better at X, Y, Z. And so since you're part of a franchise model, I imagine that there's a really actually sophisticated funnel directing people to purchase what
Yes.
you're offering. And so how has business been for you?
In hashtag 2020, it's almost sad to say this, but I've had the best 3 months, the best quarter of our business in the last quarter. Because just like you said, people are looking for health right now too. And this pandemic is real and it's dangerous. But one thing you can do is, and one thing I think we're not talking about is how we can protect our own health, right? And so there are a lot of variables we can't control in life, but what we can control is how much sleep we're getting, how we're dealing with our stress, how we're eating, and all of those things. And living a healthy lifestyle protects you from it can't always protect everything. We don't know enough about this virus to know, but what we do know is that having less risk factors is helpful, right? And so my goal and my job is to help people have less risk factors. And so they're coming to me for looking at, like, decreasing their weight. Like, obesity is a huge
so those
risk
are the risk factors that we're talking
Obesity
about.
is a huge risk factor right now for your chance of dying if you get COVID.
Which is bad.
Which is bad, right? But it's a controllable risk factor. Now, is it easy to control? No, I'm not saying it's easy to control. I'm someone who's struggled with my weight my whole life. I'm not telling you it's an easy thing to control, but I'm telling you we can work on it and we can control it. There's your genetics, your gene. You can't really, those are given to you, right? You can't control those. So when we're talking about 2020 and what we can control, moving your health forward, one healthy habit at a time, is something people can't control. And so there are a lot of people who've been awakened to that. This is when that New Year's resolution that they started in January and failed by February and March, when this hit, they may have eaten themselves for 3 or 4 or 5 weeks into this depression because of COVID. But once they woke up and realized, hey, I want to take control of my health. And I have helped so many people. My business has exploded. I think last month we brought on 92 new clients. Like,
just for you.
Yeah, exponential growth.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's how are you able to handle 92 clients? I mean,
so I train coaches. I have coaches on my team I've trained. And so I wouldn't say all of those were my personal coaches. We have a whole system. We plug you into the system. Everybody gets a personal health coach. It's not always me. And I have great coaches on my team I would trust with anybody. In fact, we have a 14-year-old who, 14-year-olds like to eat food, and you never listen to your mom. So I, connect her with one of my coaches who she trusts and likes, and it's been a good relationship. So the same thing, we have coaches on our team who we trust, and they help us with all that incoming clients.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, good. Yeah. So just for everybody listening, I've often trashed multi-level marketings, and I hate that. This is far from that. This isn't a multi-level marketing type of thing, because you're talking about. So that's why I just want to address that real quick.
Yeah, people ask me this question all the time, and it's not like
about multi-level marketing companies.
Right.
I don't believe in them whatsoever. Right. And those of you who are listening who do that, I might hurt your feelings, but you're wasting your time. Don't do it anymore. So, but we'll get into that later, because you just use people, and I don't like that. And so let's go into talking about real quick the difference. Let's address that real quick, because you're talking about coaches under you. So let's.
The coaches, because I have a funnel that coaches come in, but clients come in, but then the coach who coaches them always makes the most money. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like, I may be the magnet that brings them in, but then they are the person who's servicing and being the service provider, providing the coaching.
Because they're doing their own thing, and so they make their money.
Yes, okay. Exactly.
And so
that's what's fun too, is that not only has our income grown in the pandemic time, but we also have coaches on our team who income has grown. I have multiple coaches who are sole income providers for multiple reasons for their family, and most of them are moms. And so let me tell you the other thing I've been doing for 137 days my kids have been home now. I don't know where we're keeping track. I just know August 17th it will have been 157 days that they've been home. So not only am I now the mom, I'm also the teacher and the business owner, and most of my coaches on my team also have kids, and they are so grateful that they can also do this from home and be flexible, and that their incomes are growing too during this time. Yeah.
And so the key thing here to think about with this is that this is a real business. It is real legit. Right. You are actually doing things. And again, it's as far from MLMs as you can get, really, because it's a functional business. The way that I really like to view your business and your type of model is that of a consultant. I have a consulting vertical on my side, and that's really what you're doing. I'll go in, I'll look at the person's watch, I'll tell them, hey, it's 11 a.m. and give me some money. but that's what you're doing. You're going into them. You're saying, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to make a map plan for you. We're going to get it done.
Yep. We provide a service. Yep.
Exactly. And so you provide a service to help them get to where they want to go. Just like I would, is like, hey, we're going to take everything you have in your business. We're going to guide it. And it's the same thing, except for it's on a personal level.
Exactly. So the first step for any client who wants to become a client is we do a health assessment. We map out their goals, their vision, what they want to do. And then they get weekly coaching support. So we do weekly client check-in calls. I like to call them celebration calls, keeping them really positive. But it is that, we just keep them following their map, just like consulting, just like you said. We just help keep them moving forward.
Good. So you're listening to The Voice of Business. I am interviewing Gretchen Fors with Fors Health Consulting, which is a business that she's been in for the last 5 years. Is that right? 5 years? All right. We'll be back here after a quick commercial break. Welcome back to The Voice of Business. My name is Nicholas Jones, and I'm going to do a little bit of a plug here. Remember to go over to voiceofbusiness.com, and you can listen to this episode again or any of the past episodes. I am interviewing Gretchen Fors and her husband, Eric, and her company is Fors Health Consulting. And what I want to jump into right now is I really want to, you have mentioned one healthy habit at a time, and you've mentioned that 5 or 6 times over the course of this really short little 30 minutes here. I want to dig into that. Okay. I want you to explain the importance and why so much onto the one healthy habit at a time.
Because like we were talking a little bit earlier about our brains, every action that we do in life is really determined by our thoughts and then what our brain thinks about those thoughts, right? And so we talk about one healthy habit at a time because as you get those small wins build big wins. And so it's just taking that first step. So sometimes with clients who come to me, maybe we're working on, most of them want some overall health goal, but something I can think of that's real easy is lots of people drink a lot of soda or something they maybe don't want to drink, right? And so if you tell your brain, don't drink soda, don't drink soda, don't drink soda, your brain goes, oh, but I really like it. I don't know why you're taking it away from me. So instead of saying don't do something, I encourage them to find something that they can do and be positive in it. So can you drink one more glass of water tomorrow than you did today? Sure, right? Good. Okay, you did that tomorrow and then the next day and the next day. And 3 days later, hey, can you drink 2 glasses more than you did the day before? Sure, right? Until we reach that goal. And so, really it takes, they used to say it takes 21 days to make a habit. It's really more like 66 days. So starting on something that's manageable that you can do on your worst day. We all have great ideas of what we want to do, but you can't, everybody starts on Monday with a new diet and a new exercise program. And by Wednesday, they're so exhausted, they can't get up and do it again. That's not what I do for people. We start one healthy habit at a time. So that's something you can do on your worst day.
And so you're talking about shifting focus, really.
Exactly.
Because even in marketing, when it's you don't like to use the word don't in marketing, right? because then people hear the word don't, and now the whole focus of your message is a don't. Right. And in marketing, you want do, you want consuming, you want things like that. So you're focusing on do right. Good things. And so you're shifting focus. You're saying don't focus on the don't aspect of it. Focus on adding more goodness to it. So
exactly.
A visual analogy. I love visual analogies. A glass of muddy water. You can dump the muddy water out and now you don't have any water in it, or you can just continue to add clean water into it and eventually it becomes clean and pure.
Right.
The concept that when I'm hearing you say this, people are thinking, well, I could do that myself. Like, why would I need to hire anybody? And I think from what I'm hearing, the key thing is really going to be accountability.
Exactly.
And from a business perspective, from what I'm hearing you talk about, really, it goes with measuring and accountability. So I could have, for myself, like I could have any amount of performance within my business, and until I actually measure that and keep it accountable, there's no improvement.
Exactly.
And I don't know what to improve. I don't know how to improve it. And so what I'm hearing is that you function largely as an accountability check.
Yep, exactly. I'm really that account. And I still like to keep it positive because sometimes people don't want accountability, right? Like our brain says, oh, but I didn't do well. I don't want to talk about that. But really, that's why I like to call it the win for the week. We always start off every call with every client. What was your win for the week? And sometimes they sit there for 5 minutes and can't think of one. And then I have to say, okay, let's think of something small. But once we get that small one, all of a sudden their brain goes, oh, you're right. I did this and that and this and that. And all of a sudden we've turned something really that they were worried about into something super positive. And you see how that one extra win every day, that 1% improvement makes a huge improvement over time. But we all want that quick fix, right? Like working in healthcare. I mean, when I worked as a women's health nurse practitioner, I cannot tell you how many clients or patients at the time came in and said, I'm gaining weight because it's my thyroid. I know my thyroid's off. Will you check it? It's got to be that. And I would check it and do all the due diligence, and they would come back and they would say, I'd say, it's not your thyroid. You need to eat better, sleep better, take better care of yourself. They'd say, well, how do you do that? And I'd say, well, guess what? They don't actually teach you that in nursing school. I wish they did. And I would send them out the door. And then when I found this program that is and you asked me about being a life coach, it's kind of like being a life coach. It's a whole education system we have. It's a stepwise program. It plugs you into the system and it teaches you how to do those things that we all know we should do. But we don't have that accountability partner. We don't have that tracking system. We just know we should do it. And when you just think you should, you're in that nebulous, I don't know what I'm really doing. Once we start tracking it and moving forward, then your brain sees those wins and then it goes, oh, and then it sees all those small things it can accomplish. And so it just is that, and all of a sudden exponential growth happens. And it's really fun for people to realize they are the dominant force in their life and that they can actually accomplish all of these things they want to.
And when you're talking, it makes me think a lot about what my wife says to me all the time. And it gets really annoying because she's like, well, don't say you can't do something. Or, and she's like, she's focused on this good thing. Like, what did you do that's positive and all this type of stuff. And like, there's that part of me that's like, just stop it and let me be me. and then when I look back, I'm like, oh, that actually made everything better in like for my day in my life. And that little focus, that little win, I think that, you can look at any kid and the kid's like, I just don't like what you're telling me to do. And then, like even with my daughter, I try to get my daughter to focus on good things and positive things. And it's a freaking chore. Oh my gosh. My wife's way better at it than I am. And so how do you find life coaches that you hire?
The coaches,
or not life coaches,
coaches,
health coaches. How do you find coaches?
Coaches have come to me in different ways. Obviously, I have lots of nurses who've come that have decided, just like I did, that they loved helping people, but for whatever reason, working nights as a nurse is not super fun when you have little kids. And so people have connected us. They know what I do, and they send them my way, and then we chat and see if it's going to be a good fit. So I would say most of them have come from things like this, where people hear what I'm doing, they think it sounds interesting, and then they usually refer their friend, and then we kind of have a conversation and see if it's going to be a good fit for them or not.
Are predominantly all of your coaches with a health background, like a bachelor's degree and things like that, or are these people who just went through your program and they're like, hey, I want to do this too?
Both. There are some people who just go through and actually that's one of the reasons Eric's here, because one of the things Eric and I had started talking about when we first were married, that we maybe wanted to run a business together, but at the time we couldn't really see how a family nurse practitioner and a finance guy could run a business together. But what we realize now is that we bring different parts to the team, and Eric helps a lot with my back. I'm not that great numbers person, but he's that great numbers person to help with that stuff. But guess what? Eric's a great coach too. And there are people that he's actually, I told you I wanted to bring him on because he actually is a better coach than I am.
Well, good. Well, we're going to talk to him just here in a second.
And that's what I want people to realize, is that the only thing I need to have someone to be a good coach is to have a heart to serve and a desire to make improvement in their life. And because you have to be on that personal growth path too, to help inspire people too. Does that make, what I mean?
No, I get it 100%.
So you have to have a heart to help, and you have to have a desire to be in continual improvement yourself, and then help others see that continual improvement and improve their lives too. That's about all it takes.
And so, yeah, because you talk about finance, health, like how do they combine? Like, finance always has a place. My wife is a finance person, and I hate doing numbers. And so that's her role. Like, I mean, she basically functions as the CFO of my company, because that's I in between like raising our kids in chaos, I'm like, dude, you're going to sit down with me for 3 hours and we got to get this all hammered out. And so she does a lot of finance stuff for me, which is amazing because I can't do that myself.
Right. And I really love what you said, Nick, because like you and Amelia are a great team, and Eric and I are a great team. And I think it takes a great team to build a great business. And sometimes people see me as the face of the business, but I can tell you it's not. It's a team business, and that we do life together. We do our family together. And although I had to take, in some ways, a step back from what I considered my traditional career path because I couldn't follow that structure and we couldn't have 5 kids, it's been such a blessing to find something we could do together, and we can do life together this way. And it's just made our lives exponentially more happy to do this together than, be in this constant tension or pull of us both doing our own thing and trying to do life together too.
Now, Eric, you work for Albertsons full time. And so you basically are now the person who got stuck with 2 jobs because your primary focus is Albertsons. And that's basically your little baby that you take care of. You have to focus 100% of your efforts to that. And then when you're not doing that, now I'm hearing that you're going to be pioneering the finances behind the door for this business. How do you manage to get that done?
Reduce your sleep as soon as possible.
Yeah, because now instead of having a dual income household, you have a 3-income household basically because you got now a double duty.
Right. No, it's a challenge, but it's a great challenge to have. I think it really requires scheduling and just mapping out the week. What do we have going on? Kind of putting your blocks in order and blocking and tackling. I think knowing what each other's strengths are and kind of leaning on those strengths. And then also, there's a lot of time in the day that we all have, especially with COVID kind of shutting down a bunch of things, that we can choose how we use our time. We all have the same 24 hours in the day. And if you want to go after something, go after it. There's time to do it. And you just have to be disciplined in order to do it.
And so let's talk about the management of time that we're talking about. Yeah. So every week, every Monday morning, I sit down and I plan out what my week's going to be. I look at, I have my dossier of notes that I conform and I get done. I plan out who's going to do what assignments and kind of go through that. Do you have that type of regimented planning session that you do?
Yeah, we have I'd say a weekly check-in meeting between the two of us, and we kind of map out, we still have the 5 kids. They still have things that need to happen. So we map out kind of any activities or events that they have going on, and then kind of what key business meetings we have on either sides of our businesses and client or coach meetings that we have, kind of map those out, make sure that we put those anchors in the ground. And then we map out, what is going to be kind of business growth type activities, what is going to be kind of more analysis, kind of management of the business, right? So looking at the P&L, seeing how our numbers are tracking for the month or whatnot, and how do we take it to the next level and establishing those goals. And one thing that Gretchen mentioned, the one healthy habit at a time, right? I know for me, one of my mindset changes has been focusing less on goal discussion and more on habit discussion. Because a goal, right, once you accomplish a goal, you're on to the next thing, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas habits, that's what's going to propel you up into accomplishing that goal, and then thereafter continuing to maintain that habit and building on those habits, right? You talk a lot about habit stacking, so building one habit on top of another. Focusing on those habits. What are those key habits that we're going to have relative to client acquisition or business building habits, and really nailing those down?
Okay, perfect. So we're going to take a quick little break, and we're going to come back and I'm going to talk some more about those goals. You're listening to The Voice of Business, and I am interviewing today Gretchen and Eric Fors and their company, Fors Health Coaching. Welcome back to The Voice of Business with Nicholas Jones here. I am interviewing, again, as we had talked about, Fors Health Coaching with Gretchen and Eric. We're going to talk a little bit briefly about goals. And so one of the things that Eric just had mentioned that I 100% agree, you've got your goals. You set your goals. And if you focus so much on here's a goal without really addressing the steps that it's going to take to achieve that goal, it's useless. So we've all heard that thing where people say, where people are like, oh, you write down your goals, you're more successful. It's true, because that actual effort of writing it down does create in your brain some kind of accountability, some kind of semblance of what you're going after. And it creates a funnel. It focuses everything into there. But there's a second part, and that's what we're going to jump into. So Eric, can you kind of help us understand about that second part for entrepreneurs that kind of relate to goal building?
Yeah. I mean, you may have a goal of, I want to be, gross $1 million in revenue in the year. Well, what is it going to take to get to that number? If you're in the health coaching business like we are, you can generally tell, it's going to take this many number of clients, and you're going to have a certain number of clients that are attrition, are going to continue to grow, and then you're going to have people that are going to want to grow their own businesses as coaches. And so what does that look like? So it's backing into it, right? You know that there's $1 million number you want to hit. So backing into that, by month 6, we need to be eclipsing $600,000 in revenue because the back half of the year slows down. So breaking those bigger goals into smaller, more manageable goals, and then also what are the habits along the way? Because it doesn't just happen. I don't just hit $1 million in revenue just overnight. What are the habits I'm doing? So I'm going to spend 3 hours every week of consistent client acquisition activities, or I'm going to spend 3 hours every quarter in analyzing why is there client attrition? Why did I lose those clients? And how do I get them back? Or how do I make sure that future clients don't leave my business?
And that focus, again, we're really kind of hitting accountability here, because if you're not having those numbers and you're not tracking it, it's pointless for you to say, well, I'm going to dedicate 3 hours to why am I having attrition occurring within my business? If you're not really tracking, did I do 3 hours? Like, I think I may have only done 2. Well, maybe I did 4. Maybe, if you don't know, if you don't have a hard line that you're tracking, it makes it very, very difficult to improve. Again, going back to the thing I'd mentioned earlier, where if you're not recording or tracking what's happening, you can't have market improvement. You can't have measurement, any measurement of improvement. So how does habits sink into this though? Like how do you develop a habit? Like, so real quick for me, 2 hours every week, I work on networking. That means I'm shooting an email to people. I'm following up with people. I'm reaching out to new people that I haven't met before. I do that 2 hours every week. I've done it for so long that I just don't even really think about it anymore. I just, it's a habit, like literally a true habit. I just go somehow in the back of my mind, there's something that is tracking how much I've done it. And like, I just literally just there, like I know this week I've only spent 75 minutes networking. And so I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning and my brain's going to go, hey, you still got some more time to do networking. And I'm going to shoot out some emails. I'll reach out. I'll make a phone call. I'll connect. And it's just there. I don't know. There's just something in my brain. I've done it for 10 years now. And I've never missed my 2 hours for a week. And so that's my habit. But how do you get to that point? Like, I don't even know how I got to that point.
Yeah, I think you start with, Gretchen kind of commented on it, kind of baby steps. We call them micro habits, right? So something that you could do every single day. So if it's, Nicholas I'm going to text one new person every single day. And maybe that's your micro habit you can do. And then from there, you build on top of that to the point where you are at, you're doing 2 hours a week, right? So it's something that you can do that you can measure your progress. And also in the business, I think it's important to not confuse effort with productivity, right? Because a lot of us, we are all very good about being busy. And I've been so busy, I haven't even time to check my phone. I haven't even time to talk to my wife or talk with the kids. That we talk a lot about business building activities. What are activities that there's correlation or causation around increasing my business? I see a direct correlation between I did this activity and I grew the top line by 2%, or I did this activity and I retained twice as many clients month over month. So really highlighting on those key business building activities and making sure you're doing those as opposed to just defaulting to I'm busy, I'm doing stuff.
One of the key things, we're right here at the end now. What better note to end on than actually something so powerful in that sense of confusing effort and productivity. In my life, I've got 6 verticals. I've had to focus heavily on that productivity, because if I don't, I just got lost in the weeds and I just do a bunch of trashy work because I'm confusing. I'm busy. I'm doing stuff all the time, but are you really improving? And there's been times in my life where the answer is literally no. Where it's like, no, I've worked this all week. Have I done anything that's improved or anything that's increased productivity? And I haven't done nothing productive. And so you've been listening to The Voice of Business, and we are, sad to end it here, but we gotta hop off. And so I really appreciate you coming on board, Gretchen and Eric, and I appreciate your discussion. So how can they reach out to you is the real question here.
Good question, Nick. So you can find us actually our hashtag for Instagram is Fors Optimal Health, and same on Facebook, Fors Optimal Health, or you can reach out to us. You can find us that way, and also on Facebook on Gretchen Fors or Eric Fors, and our website, GretchenFors.com.
And so with the Fors, it's FORS.
No, okay.
No,
I should spell you right. It's
see?
FORS as in Sam. Even my little kids could say it's Fors. F as in Frank. ORS as in Sam. Really quickly, so people can find that. But yeah,
FORS. Now, the beauty of the internet, and I checked beforehand, is their SEO is working enough. So if you go in there and you type it really kind of just Gretchen blah 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 Fors health coaching, it'll show up on there. So and it'll also be on my website, Voice of Business, where I'll have the helpful links and directing traffic to her website as well. So thank you guys. I hope you have a wonderful Saturday morning. You've been listening to The Voice of Business.